Brokish is the Deputy Director for the Midwest region of American Farmland Trust, where she provides leadership and coordination for programs advancing conservation cropping systems. Key initiatives include the Illinois Sustainable Ag Partnership, the Illinois Cover Crop Initiative, and farmer-led water quality programs. Jean grew up on a dairy farm in Southwest Wisconsin. She has a Bachelor of Science in Agronomy from the University of Wisconsin at River Falls and a Master of Science in Soil Science from Purdue University. So I will kick it off to you, Jean. Let me
Thanks,
stop.
Rachel, and appreciate you coming to the front of the camera, I guess, and all the work that you've done on these calls recently behind the scenes. And, for me, this is kind of fun because I used to run behind the scenes and then I ran, MC, and I've passed that on. So I'm delighted to be back here today as a presenter and sharing some information on a cool tool that ICCON has developed. I will see if I can find my share button here and pull up my slides and have you take a look. Let's see. Here we go. All right. Is that looking, you can see my slides there?
Yep, looks good.
All right, great. So, yeah, as Rachel mentioned, I'm going to be discussing the a financial incentive database tool that ISAP has created. And I'm just going to kind of run through a little bit of information first and just kind of ask you all to raise your virtual hand if you have heard from people in the field questions like, I lost my questions here. Hang on one second. I had this all set up. Here it is. Okay, apologies. Different platform here than I'm used to. Okay, I'm ready now. So if a farmer has said to you, I'm looking for some virtual hand raises or thumbs up or whatever. If a farmer has said to you, I've heard that I can get paid to do conservation practices, but there are a lot of programs out there and I don't know which ones I'm eligible for. So if that sounds familiar to you, you can give me a little like thumbs up or I see one thumbs up from Rachel. Yeah, excellent. Something else that you might have heard, or if you've ever thought, as somebody who's working with farmers, if you've ever thought, oh, I wish I had a list of all the incentive programs available in my county that I or my staff could share with farmers we serve. And so we all recognize that there's a lot out there, and sometimes it would be nice to just have a list that we could give to folks. So if you have heard that, you can give me another virtual thumbs up. And rest assured that this presentation is good for you because we attempted to tackle that. I'm going to share a little information on that here. But first, I'm going to just illustrate the fact that, financial incentives are a key part of this. This is a survey from the Iowa Farm and Rural Life Poll. And you can disregard the blue bars right now. Focus really in on those orange bars, where the question is, if more cost share funding were available for soil health practices such as cover crops, would you be more likely to try them or expand their use? And you can see on the left here that 51%, more than half of the respondents indicated that indeed if financial incentives were available, they'd be more likely to try them. And then the next slide here, we also know there's kind of good news because once farmers try cover crops through financial incentives, the survey held by the SARE National Cover Crop Survey also indicates that farmers are very likely to continue using cover crops after those financial incentives stop. So here they have more than 2/3 indicate definitely yes, and another 23%. So almost 90% of farmers who have received payments for cover crops intend to keep using them after those incentives go away. And there's more good news, although remains to be seen how long-term this good news lasts, but the Inflation Reduction Act allocated $19.5 billion over the next 5 years for climate-smart agriculture. And essentially, this is historic levels of investment in conservation agriculture. And it's not to mention also, you know, some additional funding sources like tax credits that might be coming online through 45Z for biofuels. And then there's on top of that, there's also the USDA invested the $3.1 billion in the Climate Smart Commodity Partnership projects. And all of this translates down. There's actually 22 projects that have identified Illinois as a target geography for those climate smart commodity projects, and over $844 million is available for that. So we really feel like this is a great opportunity for farmers who've been thinking about cover crops. Now is a great time to do it. The financial resources are there to kind of help give you an incentive to make a move. So ISAP's members really wanted to ensure that farmers have those tools that they need to access and benefit from all of these various funding sources. First, I really thought it would be helpful to just kind of do a quick refresher on who ISAP is. These calls are hosted by ISAP, but oftentimes ISAP kind of is in the backseat of this. But the Illinois Sustainable Ag Partnership, or ISAP, is a coalition of 19 different organizations, all working to improve soil health and water quality. And really our goal is we want to promote the adoption of conservation cropping systems. And we formed in response to that Illinois Nutrient Loss Reduction Strategy back in 2015, 2017 timeline, and trying to work collaboratively and provide kind of a unified voice for best practices. We do have kind of a theory of change, which I'm not going to read through, but more information is on our website. We developed this in 2020 and really just thinking about our core strategies as increasing farmer recognition and that economic value, being a clearinghouse for information on conservation practices for soil health and tile drainage, and then accelerating the adoption of those conservation practices. You can see in the middle box kind of how we're approaching this through sharing information, trying to be action-oriented, fostering that knowledge transfer, using consistent message, and then promoting for policies and funding priorities that result in the biggest benefits. Ultimately, again, I mentioned this before, we formed in response to the nutrient loss reduction strategy, and our guiding principle, or our ultimate and desired impact, is that Illinois agriculture can voluntarily meet the goals of the nutrient loss reduction strategy. So what this boils down to for today's presentation is we want to help farmers access these funds. And we really kind of, one tool we created to do this is our financial incentives database. So we're hoping that farmers can find funding with ISAP's Find tool. It is a database that can filter over 60 financial incentive programs by just thinking about 3 simple questions: where you farm, what you farm currently, and what you're interested in trying out. I'm going to show you an example of this in a second, and we're going to kind of do it through the lens of Farmer Joe. We all know Farmer Joe. He comes to field days, he has good conversations at the coffee shop, but he's never actually planted cover crops. And he comes into the office one day and he says he's ready to plant cover crops, and wants to get paid to do it. And so what do we know about Farmer Joe that can help kind of pair him up and find a good program for him? Well, we know that he grows corn and soybeans. We know that he has never grown cover crops before. We know that he farms in Sangamon County, Illinois. And he's really interested in some of these climate smart commodity projects that are available here. So we pull up our financial incentive database and we answer the first question about where his farm is located. And you can see within the state of Illinois, we have Sangamon County checked. And then we go to the next questions about describing his current operation, and we can check the row crop, corn, soy, wheat, small grains kind of production system. And then we select which practice he's interested in. There's a whole variety of practices listed there, and we can choose cover crops just to really focus on what Farmer Joe is most interested in. And through the financial incentive database, we get back 28 different programs could potentially be available to Farmer Joe. And this is a lot to evaluate and wade through. Unfortunately, we've made a few additional kind of signals and things for people to see to help wade through the different options. So we've grouped the different programs into 4 buckets. The first is carbon programs. These are programs that claim a farmer's carbon asset and often require new practices to be eligible for payment. The second bucket with the icon that has kind of 3 little people and a dollar sign over it, these are government programs. They are funded with public or government funds and cannot be combined with other government funds. However, it may be possible to stack payments from government programs with some of the other privately funded programs. The third bucket, which is a circular icon with dollar and leaf sign there, these are the climate smart commodity projects that generally or often combine public and private funding, and they can't be combined enrollment with other programs because these carbon smart or climate smart commodity programs are also claiming carbon. So they have the public dollar piece and they have the private carbon piece. And these are just standalone programs that are not stackable, generally speaking. And then the last is these climate smart commodity programs that don't claim the carbon asset. So these are also combining the public and private funding sources, but they may be able to stack with those private carbon programs at the top. So this is the circle sign with just the dollar sign. More information is on the financial incentive database tool that explains all of these things. So, based on Farmer Joe's interest and desire to look at a climate smart commodity project, we can choose and focus in on one of those circular icons. And 2 that catches Farmer Joe's eyes are the program from the National Association of Conservation Districts and a program, Carbon A-List. And what Farmer Joe can do, he selects those 2, and then our tool does include a compare selected button that opens a new page and gives Farmer Joe kind of a side-by-side view of those 2 programs with just a little bit more information. So this includes an overview of the program, recaps the geography, and provides high-level information on length of contract, who the lead organization is that Farmer Joe should reach out to, what eligible practices, the additionality requirement, which is basically, whether it needs to be a new program or not, and payment schedule, and then what kind of price or incentive payment is being offered. So, Farmer Joe can kind of look at these 2 side by side, and then decides that he's more interested in the National Association of Conservation Districts, and he can click that green button at the bottom for program details, and it opens a more detailed page about that program that kind of has expandable boxes that cover everything, lots of details on farm eligibility, including when the program started, where it's available, what are the practices, and the additionality requirement again. It also includes details on money matters. What is the payment schedule? What is the price they're paying? Is it stackable? Can it be combined with other programs? The carbon-related portion of it. It includes a whole box on contract length, data collected at enrollment, what kind of agronomic and technical assistance is available, and then lastly, it has some technical details about the program, recapping again who the lead organization is, what the outcomes estimation method is, especially important if they're being paid for carbon, like how much greenhouse gas is being sequestered, what actually is the method that this program is using, and what are the verification requirements from the farmers. With all of these too, each of these pages with this detailed information has a button where you can print that page out for later review. We all know Farmer Joe and many of his counterparts may like to have a piece of paper they can review later. So there is the possibility to print that out, and you would have all of that information on a piece of, on something you could give to the farmer. And then there's also the ability to all of these pages have a hyperlink directly to the program website where you can get a lot more information and figure out who actually to contact or what the enrollment paperwork looks like and start the application there. So for Farmer Joe, again, remember there was, putting our hat back on Farmer Joe, there was 28 programs, and by using the financial incentive database tool, he narrowed it down to one. And the great news is that Farmer Joe is able to plant his cover crops in 2024. He just got them in the field, and he's on his way for success with a more sustainable or conservation cropping system. So that's kind of the overview. We're all going to have a chance to kind of test run it for the next 10 or 15 minutes or so. But before we do that, couple disclaimers and an acknowledgement. ICEP, we compiled all this information, but we really are not in a position or wanting to hold ourselves out as endorsing any particular program or company. Our aim really was to facilitate that data sharing among our farmer networks. And we feel we've done this. Part of what we did in compiling this data was ground truth it with all of the company representatives and make sure that our information was accurate. And in some cases, we honestly scrubbed out some of the content they provided that was more like more commercial or more like promotional in nature. So we really tried to provide this even fair representation of the programs for farmers to evaluate. And then want to give acknowledgement to the Illinois Soybean Association. They did provide a grant through their checkoff program to ISAP to develop the Find tool, and appreciate their support there. And they also are a member of ISAP and have provided a lot of great leadership in our work to engage farmers. So I think, I don't know, Rachel, maybe I'll just pause here 1 second and see if there's any quick questions on presentation so far before we shift to doing some test runs.
Yeah, thanks, Gina. I see at least 2 new ones. One from Kim. Is this still in development? I see missing information such as no information available in a few places.
That's a great question, Kim. So sometimes the companies just didn't respond. Maybe they weren't able to disclose methodology or they weren't able to disclose price, in which case they just elected not to provide that. And we didn't want to make it up. So we just said that it was not provided or not available. That could be applicable or could account for some of those responses. The other place where you might see that is if it's truly not applicable. So like a government-based program like EQIP doesn't claim any carbon or it doesn't have any verification methodology. So in that case, we would put not applicable or not available in that box. So the information that was provided to us and the information that was relevant is all there. And we're not still creating or developing the tool. However, we do recognize that there's going to be some need to keep it updated because these continue to evolve and are dynamic. And as market signals change, some of the carbon payment valuation goes up and down, as well as any new programs that might be coming online through like a local RCPP or even county incentives that might be coming online or sunsetting. There's going to be some need to update that. Was there one other question?
Oh, yes.
Jean,
Go ahead,
Jean,
Corey.
just wanted to jump in. Can you expand on I mean, the other two questions are very much the same line of thought of like, hey, there are programs not listed. Who's the primary contact that someone can email if they want to share some information? Can you provide that?
Yeah, it's definitely on the last slide, but it's also, maybe Rachel could pop it in the chat too. Just you could email hello@ilsustainableag.org. That's a great way to do it. And then we also have a link on the site, or if not, it's going to come really soon, where people can actually submit information on programs that they may know of that aren't listed, or submit corrections. So we recognize this is dynamic, and partly we need some help from users out there to help us make sure it's accurate and useful to them. Yeah. Was there another question, Rachel? I think we can also we're going to have some time for question and answer after we do a test run of it. But I don't know if there's other questions now, or should we get into the demo and have people use it?
Yeah, I think let's do the demo.
Okay, all right. So the link to the Find tool, and maybe I think we can add this to the chat, is ilsustainableag.org/find tool. And if you all want to go there, I have a couple scenarios that I'd love to run through and see if we can test it and experience it. So the first one, let's see what you can find. So we have a row crop farmer in Clay County, Illinois, and he's interested in wildlife habitat. So I'm going to just leave this slide up, and I'm going to encourage all of you to actually hop on the website and try it. Starting with geography, making sure Illinois is selected, and then choose Clay County. We know he's a row crop farmer, and we know that he's interested in wildlife habitat. So the question is, how many programs we find, or do you see for Farmer Joe? And if you find an answer, put it in the chat. I'm going to see who can get the same answer that I got first. Oh, Kim, yes, 6. 6 is the correct answer. All right, that's the first successful attempt there. We'll go a little bit more complex. We'll go back to the beginning. I think there should be a start over button at the bottom of your screen. Let's see what we can find for a dairy farmer in Joe Davis County, Illinois, and he is interested in the entire bucket of grazing and pasture practices. So in this case, you'll see on the site that there's kind of families of practices, and you can choose the grazing and pasture bucket and see how many programs are available for this farmer, this dairy farmer. Yeah, Sarah, I found 10 as well. Hopefully others are finding 10 on there. You can then go back and decide, oh, actually we have our grazing, we're not eligible for these. We read through these programs and we're not eligible for the grazing aspect, but we are eligible for some manure management. So if you go back to the beginning and you clear off the grazing and pasture practices and choose manure management, you could then see, if you want to give that a try, I'll give you the answer. You could then see that there's 5 programs that could be an option for this farmer in Joe Davis County. I think I have a little bit different scenario. We have a vegetable farmer in Cook County, really interested in nutrient management practices. And this one, the question is not how many programs are available, but how many different types of programs are available. So this is where you would need to look at the icons and see how many different types of programs there are there. And I don't remember the answer to this one. Does anyone have the answer? Looks like there's Just ran it. Looks like there's 4 programs, but 2 different kinds. Yeah, great. Yeah, you can see if you're doing this, you can see A Greener World, Marble Seed, and Regeneration International. All are climate smart commodity programs, circled symbols with the dollar signs, but no carbon leaf. So they are climate smart commodities that are not claiming carbon. And then you can also see the publicly funded government program, the EQIP program, with the icon of the 3 people and the dollar sign above them. All right, last one. This is for you to just put your hat on for your real day job, or if you're a farmer, or if you work with farmers. Go back to the beginning and do a row crop farmer in your county, and indicate that you're interested in cover crops. And I'm going to start with my hat. I was based in Champaign County till recently, so I'm going to say Champaign County row crop farmer. If you feel inspired, count up the programs, and you can put in the chat how many you find for your farmer in your county interested in cover crops. Any counters, any answers out there from people? How many programs are available to farmers in your county? 16 from Rich Stewart. Thank you, Rich. 15, oh, 26 with Mike. Kim, I'm going to come back to your comment. Excellent. Alexis found 26 as well. Yeah, I think the take-home point for this is that there's, this is a cover crop focused call and group. There are a significant number of opportunities for cover crop incentives. So as I mentioned, now is a great time for people who might be sitting on the fence. And as we all know, some of the programs have kind of a longer lead time for application and contracting. So while it's a little late and maybe they missed the window for planting cover crops this fall, really encourage folks to use this tool and try to get some farmers queued up and interested in programs for next fall. And Kim made the point about there's no county options for Wisconsin and it's just statewide. That is correct. This was an enormous undertaking for Illinois' 102 counties. And we did include a lot of programs are available nationwide, or they indicated multiple states. So we did tag those states, but we have not gone down to the county level for states outside of Illinois. So if you're in Wisconsin looking at this, or if you're in Iowa, or even, Oregon or whatever, you can enter your state. It will bypass a county option for filter purposes, but you can still then filter based on production type and type of conservation practices you're interested in. And you can find that out. We are also in conversations with some folks, I think in Minnesota and maybe Iowa and perhaps Wisconsin even, who are interested in kind of building this out at the county level. And we're open to working with folks on that. We would need, again, some help understanding what the local programs are, whether there's county-based incentives, state-based incentives, or like RCPPs that have specific geographies. We would need to build all that out. We built that out for Illinois, but we didn't build that out for the other states, aside from just those statewide applicabilities. So this is a couple, you can find more information about ISAP at ilsustainableag.org. And then you can email us. This is a great point. Corey had asked before about where you go. If you have questions or want to learn more about the FIND tool, you can send an email to the general ISAP hello@ilsustainableag.org. And you can also make a phone call. This is my number, 217-281-1822, and I can certainly answer questions, or I can put you in touch with some other folks from ISAP who can help. And we can do that. And I think the other thing that I don't know if Rachel shared this yet, but I did mention before about kind of a Google form that we have built or created so people can add more information about programs that might be specific or unique to their county. They can provide information start to finish on a whole new program, or they can flag corrections for us that might be needed because the information isn't as accurate as it needs to be. So with that, I think I'm going to stop sharing this screen, and we can do some Q&A for a few minutes, and then wrap up.
Awesome. So thanks so much, Jean. That was a great presentation. I'm excited to go through. We have several questions that have come in. So I'm just gonna start pitching those to you. As we go through the questions that have already come in, I just encourage everyone to keep putting more questions in the chat. And so, Jean, I think the first question that was asked was, how did you go about gathering and ground truthing the information on this site? And I think you kind of talked about that a little bit already, but maybe just expand a little bit deeper.
Yeah, that's a good question. And it was quite an undertaking. This is actually kind of the third iteration of a incentive directory. Maybe about a year and a half ago or so, we developed a cover crop incentive directory that just provided some basic information on programs that were funding cover crops specifically. And then we expanded that focus, and we had an edge of field directory. So anything that funded things like constructed wetlands or saturated buffers, we had a separate directory there. And then when the climate smart commodity projects came online, we realized, wow, there's this whole like additional suite of practices. So we had taken some of our initial research and gathering with those two individual directories and combined it together. And then we also worked with a contractor, a consultant, who is part of the climate smart commodity team. We really felt like that was the biggest kind of most significant opportunity available to farmers that they may not be familiar with. So we engaged with that consultant to gather the information and work with representatives from the different organizations. So I think like NACD, the National Association of Conservation Districts, is one of the programs I highlighted, and actually reaching out to the program manager at NACD to have them provide that information, or having an individual do some research on NACD's website, filling it out, and then having them review the information we gathered. We did that with every single program. And some companies were super receptive and forthcoming with information, and some companies were less so. So again, we've just done the best we can, and we believe this information is accurate as of the date it was published, which was earlier this summer. But again, recognizing that it's going to evolve and change. And we're committed to, on an annual basis, probably after planting time, or like late, sometime in the spring of 25, we're going to have to rescan programs and update this tool just to make sure that it's available and reflecting kind of changes in what's available to farmers across the state and region.
So that's great. And I think kind of a follow-up to that question, you've already started kind of alluding to it in your conversation. I know, so I work for Illinois Soybean. Illinois Soybean Checkoff is a primary funder of this program, where we support the Find tool quite a bit. We're on an ICCON, an Illinois call about Illinois Sustainable, from the Illinois Sustainable Ag Partnership. So obviously Illinois is very important, but there are other states that exist. So is there any intentional expansion or targeting in other states? I know Wisconsin was specifically mentioned, but there are other states besides Illinois that it turns out they matter a little bit too. So can you expand on that, how it will be, the plans for updating and moving forward a little bit more?
Yeah. Well, we are so grateful that the Illinois Soybean Association and the Checkoff program funded this. It does take a significant amount of time. And I mentioned we were working with a consultant, which didn't come free. So I think really the biggest the biggest hurdle or the biggest thing that would enable us to go more granular in a state like Wisconsin would be finding a local partner and a local funding entity that could help, you know, either do the research and feed it to us and we could integrate it into the platform, or help do the fundraising, and then we could work with our existing consultant to do some additional research based on the state-based programs. We're open to that, and we've had some conversations, but I think it would be, you know, depending. So I think I haven't really thought through the answer to this, Corey, but I feel like the next question you're going to ask me, because you're going to throw me a curveball, is like, how much money would it take?
Exactly. Yes,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
correct. What money are we talking about, Jean?
Yeah, yeah. You know, I would say it's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $10,000. We could do this. We have a lot of the Climate Smart Commodity Project information already on a state base. So it would just really depend on how many local programs, how many county level programs exist. What does the state-based incentive program look like if it does exist? And then how many RCPPs are there? If it's only a handful, you know, 10,000 is too much money. But if it's a lot of programs, like the state of Illinois has a lot of different programs and a lot of different like RCPPs, and also a lot of different, you know, kind of partnerships, like Precision Conservation Management is pulling from a lot of different programs. So kind of unraveling all of that does take some time to make sure the information is accurate and understand how we put it on the platform. But yeah, you know, $5,000 to $10,000, we could
Yeah.
roll this out for another state, I would
Yeah.
say.
And I assume that there's some maintenance work that I know you work for AFT as well. So AFT and ISAP are covering. But so that kind of leads me into the next question we got, which is how can users help? And it sounds like what you're saying is the best way for users to help is to help identify partnerships in other states or within Illinois. Would you agree with that, or is there other ways that users can help?
Yeah, if you're interested in expanding this, like if you're outside of Illinois, you're interested in expanding this, reach out, see what kind of funding opportunities or partnership opportunities might be available in your state. If you are in Illinois and say you were just awarded an RCPP, or you have an RCPP project or some sort of local non-statewide program that you want to make sure is on the find tool, search for it, see if it's there, see if it's accurate, and let us know what needs to be changed. If it's not on there, feed us that information, you know, alert us to that. I know that our CPP awards were just made recently. We haven't gone through those RCPPs and added them to this. And so that would be a way that a user could, in Illinois, could help, is just making sure that your local programs are represented, and using the form that Rachel put in the chat to provide that information. If you can't find that link, just send us an email and let us know. You know, that we're missing something, and we can engage with you offline or on the side to get that information.
So I'm going to skip. There was one question about, you know, getting specific programs listed. Who's the best way to contact? We've already kind of answered that. There was another question. I think this leans itself kind of two ways. What happens if a program doesn't have all the information to add? And so I think that you talked about this a little bit, but could you just reiterate, like, what information about a program is needed to be included in the find tool? And then what's kind of that delineation about, do they have enough information or not? Can you help understand that a little bit more?
Yeah, and I think the easiest way for me to do that might be to share my screen again here with the detailed program sheet. So I'll just look to make sure that that's showing again. We have basically these, you know, 4 overarching buckets: farm eligibility, money matters, contracting info, and technical info. And so to the extent we're interested in understanding when did the program actually start, this is maybe useful information for farmers who are looking for programs that maybe aren't brand new. You know, they're not comfortable with something that's just getting off the ground, and they want to know something that's been around for a while, and they want to know that farmers have had positive experience with it. So we're looking for like when was the program launched? What year? What is the geography? Again, like if it's county or watershed based or statewide, what are the practices that can receive funding? And then is there additionality requirement? And again, this is that carbon market or that greenhouse gas reduction threshold or requirement there. Not every program has this, in which case the answer is no or not applicable. And then money matters. We're interested in payment schedule, the price or what is actually being paid, whether it's stackable with other programs, and then if there is a carbon related incentive, what does that look like? Are they actually paying for carbon, or are they paying just for acres of practices? Contracting info deals with how long is the contract, what kind of data and the application form looks like, and then is there agronomic or technical assistance that goes along with the contract? And then the last is that technical info again, is like, who is the lead organization? If a farmer's interested, who do they actually pick up the phone and call to get started? How are the outcomes estimated? Again, this is the greenhouse gas reduction piece. If they're paying on a per ton or per pound basis, how are they calculating that? And then what is the verification or record keeping requirement that a farmer has to be aware of and comply in order to receive payment? So these are the overalls. And again, not all of these things are going to be applicable to every program. So it's okay to just say not applicable, or if you don't know, just not provide that information. We'll just disclose that out there on the form that that information is unavailable, and really encouraging people to then contact the point of the representative for that program to fill in those gaps that might be in existence on the Find tool.
So I will just call out, because this amuses me a lot. Artificial intelligence is calling us a quiet group, guys, in the chat. So if you do have questions, let's put them in the chat for Jean. Now, Jean, while you have this your screen up and you're sharing it, one of the questions that was, can users save or bookmark programs they're interested in for future reference? So maybe you can just re-demo that while you have your screen shared.
Yeah, I think I'll have to stop sharing and share something different. Let me try that. Yes, it's possible. And I think the thing would be to just catch the URL once you and add a filter here. So let me share this guy here. Hang on. I have too many tabs open. Does anyone suffer from that ever? Give me a thumbs up for that, huh? All right, let me switch here. I'll get this pulled up. So this is what the tool looks like. And right here, it includes your filters. So here we have the state of Illinois. We have the operation is row crop, cover crops, and Champaign County. If you wanted to just kind of start at a county level, you could just go back to start and say you wanted Bond County and you want everything that's available for specialty crops. You can actually choose this see all available programs. And it would give you then something to save here. You could grab this URL, and this would be the starting place or kind of a shortcut that you could send out to all specialty crop farmers in Bond County, that sort of thing, as a way to save that URL. We've also discussed working with groups, you know, if you're really interested in a specific kind of practice, we could kind of create a filter for you and help embed a shortcut button on your website that would bring people right to the Find tool based on that criteria, on those criteria. So lots of ways to do that. You could kind of create your own shortcut, or you could work with us to have something that is a little more maybe polished looking. Yeah, and I see if the, yeah, I also saw that it was quiet in here and I wasn't sure if I needed to talk louder, Corey. So I thought that was funny from the chat bot. But is the PowerPoint going to be available? I don't actually know. I think we could send out a PDF of it or something like that. But these are recorded and are posted to the YouTube channel. And Rachel put that in there. And then, of course, for those who may be joining for the first time, there's also like a Google Groups that we have created. So everybody gets added to the Google Groups and you get reminders about these calls and you get the recording link afterwards and so on. So,
Gene, I'm gonna do a plug here real fast for ISAP. So guys, ISAP is doing a lot of great work, and the Find tool is this amazing tool for farmers in Illinois. And I think that there's a need to raise awareness. So Rachel, I'm gonna ask you, there was a LinkedIn and some social media posts from the ISAP account on I think LinkedIn and maybe Facebook as well. Can you put the links to those in the chat? And I'm going to ask people on this call right now, if you support the Find tool, retweet, reshare, whatever the words are, those Find tool those posts about the Find tool. Rachel, can you find them? I'm putting you on the spot because we did
Yeah.
not pre-plan this.
No problem.
Sorry. This is what happens when you ask me to help a call. But guys, we got like 20 people on this call. Everyone on this call believes in cover crops and believes in carbon sequestration and climate smart. I'm just going to encourage you all. Once she gets those, let's post them. Let's reshare them. Let's raise some visibility for this tool. I am not seeing a whole lot of other questions. So I'll hand it off, Rachel, to you, since I'm not seeing other questions at this time.
Awesome. Thank you, Corey. Thank you, Jean. And thanks everyone for your questions. I did post a few links in the chat. So as Jean mentioned, there's a Google group, our YouTube page, and I did include a link to please reshare on LinkedIn if you're on LinkedIn. You all beat me a little bit to some of our closing slides, but I'll reiterate all of this and keep dropping some links for you all to access if you missed them earlier in the chat.
we also have the poll. Do you want me to?
Not yet, but
okay. Getting ahead of myself, sorry.
No, you're good. So I just wanted to put a few final plugs. We are relaunching our cover crop t-shirts for the holiday season. So those are ready and up on our bonfire website. I said I would have links, but now I can't open any of my other documents. So I'll share that in the Google group if you're a part of it. Maybe Jean, you could scroll earlier in the chat and grab some of those links for folks. But the QR code is on the screen if you wanted to grab your phone and just pull up the website. Great holiday gifts. They're super cute shirts. We always get a lot of compliments on them. And yeah, so if you have some cover crop enthusiasts in your life and want to give a gift for the holidays, it's a great option. Oh, yay, now my things came up. And then just a reminder that we do post blogs following these calls. So we'll do like recaps of what we talked about. We'll do a recap of the Find tool. And everything is also posted on our YouTube page. So please be sure to check all of those things out. And you can also stay up to date with some other events or other calls, ICCON calls that we'll be hosting, or ISAP events that we host on our events page. So I just dropped a link for that as well. And we do like to leave a little bit of room if there's any other updates from the group, any events that you all want to make people aware of. I know we have a few conferences coming up. So if there's anything that you want to plug for folks in the chat, you can do so now. And Jean, you can go ahead and launch that final poll and we'll just kind of gauge how people's understanding of the tool, went. So hopefully you learned a lot. I know I did. I learned some things that I hadn't known yet. So thanks, Jean, for helping us actually walk through the tool. Was really helpful. Cool. So I'm seeing some significantly increase your understanding, somewhat increased. These are all really great. And truly these polls, the beginning and the end, it helps us gauge our ICCON calls and kind of what topics you're interested in. So as we solicit feedback for the Find tool, we're always welcome to feedback of our ICON calls or topics that you all want to see. We really want to curate the ICON space for you all. So if you ever come up with a topic you're really interested in or something that's burning, please let us know. You can reach out to that hello email for ISAP. So I'm going to go ahead and end this poll.
And Rachel, I just added I really appreciate Corey's plug about some social media channels, but I also just added in a link to ISAP's aggregate, which is our monthly newsletter that goes out and really serves as kind of a recap of events, resources, learning opportunities that are available to folks. And we're happy to post your information through that. We have almost 3,000 emails on the distribution list, and it's a great way to just amplify an event that you might be having, especially things related to cover crops or soil health, etc. So encourage you to check that out. And there should be a subscribe button at the bottom of the page that I put in there.
Thank you, Jean. And with that, we are ready to wrap up, unless there's anything else someone wants to add, but I'll give a few seconds for that. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Have a lovely rest of your day. And thanks for joining us. Bye.
Thank you.